Hi guys, welcome to my channel. In this video I will show you a demo on API Gateway Resource Policy. We will see how we can secure our API using resource policy. As a prerequisite for this demo, I assume that you already know how to create REST API in API Gateway and how to deploy and invoke the API. If you are new to API Gateway, you can check this playlist where I have made videos on these topics. I will provide a link in the description box. So without any further delay, let's get started. I am in my API Gateway console and I have already created this API for this demo. So in this API, we have this get users resource and get method with Lambda integration as the backend. So in the Lambda function, we have a simple template code where we return hello from Lambda. So let us first invoke this API. So we can invoke this API from different places. We can directly invoke this API from URLs. This is a public API. So we got the response hello from Lambda. Now we want to restrict access to this API from a particular IP address. So we can do this using resource policy. So to attach a resource policy with this API, go to this menu, this left menu. Here we have this resource policy. So first of all, let us understand what is a resource policy. Here it is written, use resource policies to configure access control to this API. You must redeploy your API for changes to this policy to take effect. So resource policy is a JSON policy document that you can attach with your API to control who can invoke the API. You can use the resource policy to allow or deny your API access from three different places. First is users from a specific AWS account. You can create resource policy to deny access to users from a specific AWS account. Second is you can deny or allow access from a specific source IP address range or CIDR blocks. Third option is you can use resource policy to allow or deny access from specific VPC or VPC endpoints in any AWS account. So in this demo, we will see how we can restrict access to our API from a particular IP address. So let us click create policy, and then here you can write your own JSON policy, or you can also select from the template and modify it accordingly. So let us select from the template. So let us see the first option. First option is AWS account allow list. So this is the template policy in which what is done, effect allow. This policy allows the principal, these are the three principals, root user and a particular specific user and a role from this account. So you need to replace account ID here. So we are allowing access to our API, this resource, execute API invoke action. This action means the API can be invoked. By whom? By this principal, these users. Effect is allow, and the resource is this API. So this is a specific format which we need to provide here, where in place of this we need to give the stage name or the wildcard name, and here we need to give the HTTP verb, and here we need to provide the resource path or wildcard. We will see this now in our example. Second option is IP range deny list, and the third option is source VPC allow list. So you can see all the templates are similar, just the condition is different. In source IP allow list, the condition is we are denying execute API invoke to this API if source VPC is not equal to the given VPC ID. So in our example, we will see IP range deny list. Now to test this, I have an EC2 instance. Let me open my EC2 instance. Before this, let me also tell you that this resource policy is a resource based policy, as it is attached to a resource which is our API. Another type of policies are identity based policies, which are attached to IAM identities like users, groups or roles. So as this policy is attached to a resource, this type of policy is known as resource based policy. There are some other AWS resources with which you can attach resource based policies. You cannot attach resource based policies with all the resources. There is a list in AWS documentation. I will provide a link to that list. You can check that. The most common other type of resource based policy is S3 resource based policy, where we allow or deny access to our S3 bucket objects using resource based policy. I have also made a video on that. You can go through it. I will provide a link here at the top right corner in the description box. So this is one difference. This is a resource based policy, and other type of policies are identity based policies. There is also a video in my channel about differences between identity based policy and resource based policy. You can go through that as well. Now let us come back to our topic. So let me connect to my EC2 instance, and from this EC2 instance we will invoke our API. So to invoke the API, let us grab the invoke URL. So this API is deployed in dev stage. So this dev stage, and this is the invoke URI. And from our instance, let us call this user is not authorized. So we are able to invoke our API from this EC2 instance. We got the message hello from Lambda. As this API is a public API, so we are able to invoke this API from our EC2 instance. So now we want to restrict the invocation of this API from the IP address of this EC2 instance. So let me get the IP address, and let us create the resource policy for this API. Go to resource policy again and create policy. We will select the template IP range deny list, and here what changes we need to do. In the resource we need to provide the stage name or wildcard here. So our stage name is dev. You can also provide asterisk if you want this policy to apply for all the stages. Then we need to provide the HTTP verb. So in our case HTTP verb is get. Here also you can provide star wildcard to if you want to deny for all the verbs. And then we need to provide the resource path or wildcard. So our resource path is get users, and the condition is if IP address is this or a particular CIDR block. So in my case we want to give a specific IP address that we had copied. So this is the IP address, and then here the same thing we need to do here. Let us copy paste this. So now there are two statements. The first statement denies access from a specific IP address, and the other statement allows that we can invoke the API from anywhere. So whenever we have an explicit deny, the deny is given preference. So in this case deny will be given preference for a particular source IP address. So let us save these changes. Whenever we save our changes to the API, we need to deploy the API. So let me deploy it to our stage dev. So our API is now deployed. Let us now check again. Go to the EC2 instance. Let me clear the screen. So now we got the error, user is not authorized to perform execute API invoke on this resource, which is our API get users, with an explicit deny. So in this way we saw that we can use API gateway resource policy to deny access to our API from a specific IP address. So this was all about in this video. There are other methods as well to restrict or allow access to your API for access control for your API, which are IAM based access control and Lambda authorizer based access control. I have made videos on those topics as well. I will provide a link to those videos. You can watch them also. So if you like this video, please provide your feedback or comments so that I can improve on future videos. And also, if you have not subscribed for the channel, please consider subscribing. Thank you.